Hello, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of all of us at Books and Books, I welcome you to a virtual event with Joseph Fink, Meg Bashwiner, and Molly C. Quinn to discuss the first 10 years, the two sides of the same love story. Joseph Fink is the creator of the Welcome to Night Vale and Alice Isn't Dead podcasts, and the New York Times bestselling author of Welcome to Night Vale, It Devours, The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home, and Alice Isn't Dead. He is also the author of the middle grade novel, The Halloween Moon. He and his wife, Meg Bashwiner, a writer, performer, producer, and tour manager, lived together in the Hudson River Valley. This year, Molly C. Quinn, our moderator, can be seen starring in the indie horror drama feature Agnes, which is slated to premiere at the 2021 Tribeca Film Festival. Aside from starring in the film, Molly also holds the title of executive producer, bringing the project to life through her production company. Molly may be best known for starring as Alexis Castle on ABC's award-winning drama series, Castle. In 2019, Molly launched the production company Quagmire. Molly currently lives in the LA area with her fiancé and their two dogs, Piper and Pikachu. Throughout tonight's broadcast, you're invited to ask questions by using the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of the screen, and you can order copies of the first 10 years by pressing the green button below. We appreciate each and every order and the generous donations from viewers everywhere. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guests to the virtual screen.
Hello.
Oh,
Ooh, now we're all here.
so warm and cozy.
We're very, very on top of each other to fit into the Zoom screen is a little wider, so this is like a little bit more narrow. So we're just
Yeah, it's how I'm used to seeing you guys, though. Very close together.
In the last year, this has been mainly it. Just a lot of this.
Yeah, as soon as Alon, my fiance, had to go out and start doing some things, like waking up alone. I was just like, this is not how it's supposed to be. He's supposed to be right next to me with Pikachu snoring next to him and Piper yelling at me because I've turned over. I don't like the upset of him having to go places to work.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's weird. It's really weird how we got used to it because our lives before that were not that at all. Like we were always somewhere else. Like you were done a bunch of different locations working, and you guys traveled a ton, and you were all over the place, and we were all over the place, and then we stayed still for a year, and we're like, go out to dinner. What do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We went from being afraid to order takeout to never wanting to leave our houses ever again.
Yeah. So here we are. Yeah. So.
Well, guys, speaking of traveling, since that's something that you guys are so used to and that we're going to be able to do again soon, that we can do to a large degree now, where do y'all want to go? Where's the first place?
Well, so we timed it very well.
Mm-hmm.
That as soon as the world opens up again, we're going to have a newborn,
Yes.
which we joked about being what was going to happen, but it does seem that that's actually what's going to happen. So the answer is kind of we're just going to keep staying home for the foreseeable future because of choices we've made, as documented in our book.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we both are not afraid to travel with a baby, not during a pandemic, even the kind of tail end of a pandemic. I think we're both like, yeah, we'll take the baby. It doesn't matter. So yeah, but it definitely changes where we're going to be traveling. The let's, go somewhere super remote and spend all day outside walking is not probably not great for the baby, but we can go places and go sit still somewhere else. So
Yeah. Well, once the baby's more sentient, where do you want to take it? Is there a museum somewhere in the world or a park? I've done that. I've traveled places to Denmark and seen little kids and been like, man, if I ever went down the family path, I'd for sure want to bring my baby to Denmark so they could just play in this all day sun.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to take her to Italy. I think it would be great to Yeah, just like we both really love Italy so much. So getting
Or to Italy.
or to Italy in New York City.
Or LA now.
Oh, you
one
have
in
Italy
LA.
now.
Oh, fantastic.
Good for
That's
you.
convenient.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So yeah, just also around the country too. We have a lot of great friends who live around the country, so getting to take her visiting places would be cool.
Yeah. That's
How
what
about
we're so
you?
excited.
Where are you ready to go? I'm sure you have flights booked.
We do. We have a lot of flights booked. We can't wait to get back to Japan. We're dying to get back. That's number one. And then of course we're like, wow, we can start doing weekend trips to Korea again, and let's go to Vietnam. And like, we can't wait to go back to Copenhagen. But then like, I really want to go to Sweden because like I've actually never been. I've been everywhere around it, but never there, which I know you guys really liked it.
Love
Stockholm.
Sweden.
We only have ever been to Stockholm, but Stockholm is one of my favorite cities I've been to. It's just such a like cozy, pretty little place.
Yeah. It's like Seattle, but Scandinavian.
Fantastic. I also want to go back to Seattle. I have a girlfriend who's never been, and we were doing a podcast together that like takes place in Seattle. And I was like, we should just do a girls trip. Like, that's such an easy thing to do, and you'll love it. Seattle's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like, what is it, 2 hours from Los Angeles? And it's like Alaska Air. I think you can fly out of Burbank.
Yeah. There's literally no reason not to go. It's just right there, and it feels like you're a world away. Yeah. I also loved the drive there, which was, talk about a new experience. Like, I think the first tour that we did we go LA through to Seattle? Mm-hmm. Is that what we did?
Yeah, because
you turned left with us, I think, because you went out to Montana with us. So we picked you up in LA and then all the way up the coast, and then
you were at least to Fargo even, because you were with us on the big drive through North Dakota.
Was it a different tour where you were in Minneapolis with us too? Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, you didn't get as far as Minneapolis. There's no way.
Well, that's what I'm trying to remember, because like on the first tour, I remember, because this is funny, because reading in the book, there's a chapter where y'all mentioned getting to LA, and like, I don't know if it was both of you or just you, Meg, but someone was very upset. Someone was very unhappy. And I just remember being so excited to meet you guys, because like we'd only done like a satellite show in LA and like one remote podcast where I just like sent y'all audio files. So I remember coming with like my hair all done and my matching pink luggage to like the Motel 6 or whatever it was, like right there, Hollywood. And y'all were so nice to me. Like I couldn't tell that anyone was upset. And I think you had just had your spa day, which is why maybe you were feeling better.
Yes, I was refreshed after. Yeah, I was actually going to read that. Yeah, I'll read that. I'll read that section. That's what I picked out for tonight. My first tour as the tour manager when I was not all the way ready to do it. It was definitely a trial by fire time.
Yeah, I mean, you're never ready for anything, right? It's like the first time you do anything, you're never fully ready, right?
Yeah, and if you were ready for it, then it's not hard enough, and you need to be doing more.
I hate that so much. Like, you're so right, and I absolutely, it's like my least favorite thing for like my mental trainer to say. It's like, man, I'm doing such a good workout, feeling good, and then it's like, oh, well, you should be running at an 8. I'm like, I don't want to run at an 8. I like doing this, but that's how it goes. If it's too easy, you're not doing enough.
Yeah. Yeah, you could be better at it. That's the thing about learning a new thing, is that you should be bad at it at first, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wonder, I mean, being around you guys at that pivotal time for me, like I was 21, like I think on our first tour, I think you guys probably really helped instill that in me. And I'm grateful for it. Like I'm upset about it, but I'm also like really grateful for it.
Yeah, we embrace failure in this house. We embrace failure.
It's fantastic. It's so different. I mean, that's what was fantastic about working with you guys and becoming friends with you guys, and the whole tour family it was such a different experience from my family and growing up, where you don't fail, everything is perfect, you don't sweat, like you have no bodily functions. You're a perfect like automaton. And that's like really killing to art. And I didn't even realize it until I was around you guys and realized, no, the way you make interesting work is by throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks and working off someone's great idea and collaborating. Like y'all really taught me that.
Not being afraid to fail, because I think if you're working towards perfection and not towards creation of something new, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because when you're trying to perfect something, it has to exist already so that there can be the metric of perfect. So you're just doing someone else's perfect thing really well, but you have to not be afraid to fail to do something new.
You can also sort of set up the rules of the game so that failure is either just as interesting as success, or failure is kind of the point, which is sort of what we did. The whole idea of this book is built around that. Like, the idea of the book is by writing our memories separately without consulting each other first, we were setting ourselves up to have discrepancies and disagreements, but that failure was built into the idea, and so it was sort of the point.
Right. Well, and in reading the book, especially from your perspective, Joseph, like what you just said, like, rings so true for your character. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, this like is the question, I feel like you've always been that way. Like, you are not afraid to fail at all. And is that something that you learned, or is that something that's always been like innate in you?
Well, I mean, I've always been really clear about what I wanted to do. Like, at 3 years old, I learned what a writer was, and I was like, cool, I'll do that. And it really just didn't change. And then my dad was a musician. He taught piano, and he wrote musicals for children to do in schools. And so he knew I wanted to be a writer. So he spent a lot of time talking to me about like what it means to work in the arts. And a lot of it is just constantly having balls in the air, just constantly working on the next thing. And so I really had that instilled in me that you kind of constantly have to be starting something and constantly working on something. And if you do that, a lot of those things are going to fail. Mm-hmm. Not everything's going to stick. Right. But if you do enough of them, and you try to get better with each one as best as you can, then something like Night Vale, the popularity of it is complete luck. There's no way to replicate that. That was just a lucky thing, but it came out of me just continuing to try to make stuff during that time.
Yeah, and meeting new people to collaborate with, and like going, like, not like you knew you wanted to be a writer, but it's not like I'm going to write the great American novel and that's the only thing I'm going to do. It's like you were going to be a writer, and putting words in your mouth a little bit, but taking like the curves of life and seeing where that led you, and knowing that luck is such a big part of that.
Yeah, there's a really good talk I saw at the XO Festival in Portland. I spoke there several years ago, and another guy speaking there whose name I completely forget, but he gave a very good speech about that success is a lottery, but that everything you do is a lottery ticket. And so a lot of it is just, if you have a ton of projects, you're just buying a lot of lottery tickets on, right. and every one you buy is another, adds a little bit to the possibility that one of them will be a winning ticket.
Yeah, that's great. It's people don't know how many times you fail; they just know how many times you won. Yeah, it's actually kind of comforting, but you do have to try a lot. You have to work constantly.
The book I put together right before Welcome to Night Vale came out, like the project I did right before Welcome to Night Vale, I think the Goodreads page has like 3 reviews. Still.
Yeah.
Like 10 years later.
What was the earliest, what was the earliest story you ever wrote? Like, what was the title of it? What was it about? Like, Baby Joseph. What did you write?
I'm trying. Well, I mean, I did like some, like, my parents like to do this thing with both my sister and I, where they would like help us write books when we were very young, like 2 or 3, where it was like pictures from a magazine, and they would write down what we said about that. But they didn't really, they weren't really coherent. The first like coherent thing that I like dictated to my mom while she typed it on our computer And it was like a little early to have a personal computer, but my mom was a computer science minor, and so we had computers pretty early on. I'm trying to remember what came first, but I had this like fantasy character that I wanted to write a big fantasy epic about called The Traveler. And he was kind of like a superhero / thief. And I like wrote, I think I was like 5. I dictated a like story that was sort of the prologue to like some 1,000-page epic I was eventually going to write about The Traveler. That might have been the first one.
That's so you. I mean, there's no more you thing I feel like you could have said than that. A lot of people in the arts, you know, I feel like have this thing where like they don't want their kids to pursue the arts. You know, it's like they have a thing of like, oh, I just hope they don't, you know, do what I did. How do you guys feel about the bun in the oven and where it's going to go?
Yeah, I think we're like maybe like a little bit the opposite. Like we definitely want to make sure that she has the arts in her life, and whether if she chooses to have it be a practice or a job or whatever, we're totally cool with that. There is this sort of that thing in the industry where it's like this is so hard, so you should only do this if you absolutely can't do anything else. And I'm like, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think you should do it if you want to do it. And yeah, it's hard, but most jobs are hard. Like. So, you know,
I think about there's this really amazing art. It's a list of rules for touring musicians, but it's really useful for anyone who's touring or even anyone who works in the arts. And one of them is like, don't completely rethink your life when you're sitting in a janitor's closet waiting to go on for 5 people. What, you think you're above having a bad day at work? And it's true. Yeah. Like you're going to have a bad day at work no matter what your job is.
Yeah. So. No matter how fun and glamorous you are, no matter how much responsibility you have or don't have, like.
Yeah. There's always someone who's going to use a toilet that says, do not use this toilet and overflow it and cause damage to a set that you've maybe, you know, been using for a few weeks. Those things happen.
This is a true story.
You know. It's such a good point. It's and no one ever. I never. This is the first time I'm really hearing those comparisons to like tour life, and of course I, you know, bring everything back to acting because that's, you know, my main world, and it's so much better than what I'd been told. Like in some ways, I still believe that like if there's anything else you'd like to do, like do that first. But maybe that's total bullshit. Like maybe you should just try. And if anything, holding on to something so tight actually makes you not very good because you're not allowing yourself to be a full person and believe that you have other interests and a fallback plan. Maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah. And it's also just like sometimes you can be passionate. You're allowed to have hobbies that don't, you know, that don't like I don't have a side hustle. Like I'm a runner. But I don't do races or time myself or do anything, but I enjoy jogging and running. It's not something that I'm good at. It's not something that is a craft that I could make money at. But it's something that I really enjoy doing. And that's sort of why I like it, is that I don't have to be good at it.
Yeah.
So having things in your life that you can be passionate about, that you really love doing, that you don't have to be excellent at, like, because we have so much in life that we have to be excellent at. We have to be an excellent partner, and, you know, we have to be excellent at the work that we choose to do that pays us money. So
yeah, it's good.
It is something that, like, just with the way that the internet pushes us to monetize things and just the way the fact that most of us don't have much money, and so we kind of have to monetize everything. And so there is this thing of losing the joy of hobbies, of like things that like Meg said, you don't have to be good at and can just enjoy doing, or that you can get really, really good at, but it's just for you. It's just a thing you got really good at because you wanted to get really good at it. And that, yeah, it is definitely hard to find space. I don't know, like I really like doing music, but I kind of sometimes feel some pressure to like put that music on the internet or put it in Night Vale or incorporate it in some way to make it real, when it's mostly just because I like doing it.
Yeah, I totally agree and relate to that. I put my violin away in storage during the pandemic because I was like, what is this thing? And am I using it because I enjoy it? Or do I believe that if some part comes up that requires a violinist, I must always be ready? And I'm like, well, that's kind of bullshit. That hasn't happened before. I haven't played violin on Castle like the character did, but they never saw me actually play the instrument. Like, it doesn't matter. And so I was like, I'm going to put it aside for a little bit and get over that and see if like I miss it. And if I miss it, then I'll get it back out and I'll know that I'm playing it for me, which is, I guess that's the definition of a hobby. It's something that gives you joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to whether we will encourage our daughter towards the arts, I think I would probably take some element of what my dad did, which was, when he understood that I very seriously wanted to work in the arts, he tried his best to teach me just how much work that was and a lot of the practical aspects of it. I think that the thing you always told me is like, 75% of your time is working on stuff that isn't the art. And that kind of allows you to do the 25% that is. I don't think I'd do the other stuff my dad did, which was when I would like show him a short story as a kid. I'm like 10 and I'd like show him a short story and he would say, do you want me to be nice or to be honest?
No, Dad.
I'm 10.
I'm 10.
You can just
give
say
me the
it's
feedback
good.
that you'd give a 10-year-old. No? Okay.
He just he had a hard time finding the social niceties, but he was trying his best to get me towards my career goal. So I appreciate that.
Well, and look, he did great for his time and with you. And now I think the job of you guys as new parents is to take the good bits that your parents had and did and showed y'all and leave the not so great bits behind. And you'll make your own mistakes, of course. Like, I am nowhere near getting pregnant and I worry about that constantly. I worry about all the ways I'm going to fantasizingly fail a child. But this actually, I've been thinking about this since I got to see you guys in Joshua Tree. Is there like a trait, like Meg, is there a trait of Joseph's, and Joseph's, is there a trait of Meg's that you would want the little baby to grow into or have?
There's a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of the things that I love in Joseph that he's really good at that I'm not good at, that I hope that our child gets. He's very ambitious. He's more driven than I am. He's more like outspoken about when he's better at holding boundaries than I am, which I think is really important. I guess his drive, his boundaries, his creativity, like the way that his mind works. He's a little bit more inquisitive than I am. So that curiosity, I think, is something that I'd like our child to have. There's lots of musical, like I have no musical abilities whatsoever, and he has lots of musical talent and music appreciation skills that I think would be cool. So there's lots of stuff.
I have already started to fantasize a little bit about having someone in the family I can play music with. We'll see. With Meg, like, a big part of it is the aspect that makes her a good tour manager, the ability to take charge and the ability to kind of organize a situation is something that I'm good at organizing in certain ways, but if you give me like a practical physical reality and try to make me organize that, I'm terrible at it. So I'm hoping that she gets more of Meg's on that. On a pure practical level, I hope she gets Meg's taste in food, because I'm not picky, but I'm definitely far more picky than Meg, and it is sometimes annoying for both the people with me and me out in the world. So I would love to have a child who's just willing to eat absolutely everything. That would be wonderful.
I remember when you guys told us you were going to Japan, and I can't remember if you asked us for Rex or what it was, but there was something about restaurants, because that's what Alana and I do. Were you saying all the things you wouldn't eat or that you were allergic to? Because I know you have, stomach sensitivity. And Alana and I were like, maybe they just shouldn't go to Japan. I don't know.
I will tell you, because I don't, so the thing is, I don't eat seafood of any kind. That's like the biggest one. I really hate seafood of any kind. I'll tell you, I had a great time with the food in Japan. They have a lot of really, really amazing food that's not seafood. It is totally possible to do. I did once have to eat fish flakes because it was on the thing. But other than that, I did manage to avoid.
So what was it? What was a favorite? What was a favorite? If you don't know the name, that's obviously fine. But just like a texture that you love that you hadn't had before, or like what was a favorite?
I loved all of the food. I ate everything. I ate any sort of thing that they would put in front of me anywhere we went. I ate all of any sort of fish in any state of life or death, and everything. Yeah, I was, because that's one of the great things
Fish
about not being a
purgatory.
picky eater is that anything anyone puts in front of you, they tell you it's food, you can try it. So
Amen, sister.
but we went to we went to a really good yakitori place in Osaka.
Oh man, it was like it was just kind of a tasting menu type thing of just chicken parts from like the more regular stuff to like there was chicken
oysters.
Oh, the oysters. There was I'm trying to. It's fallopian tubes, chicken fallopian tubes. Delicious, by the way.
Delicious.
There was raw chicken, which was really good. I'm not sure I'd do it again, but it was delicious. Chicken is one of my absolute favorite foods. I know some people find it boring, but I just genuinely, like from my heart, love chicken. And so it was just like a 2-hour celebration of every part of the chicken. And I had such a good time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. Like I love that meal. I remember my favorite food trip was going from, we were in Kyoto for a few days, and then we went to Osaka, and in Kyoto we were eating a lot of traditional foods that were beautiful and like so artfully put together, but very light. Like you had to really pay attention to the flavors, and I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to understand the umami of what I'm having. And then we get to Osaka, and all that delicious street food, and like the little yakitori that they like make on the side of the street, where they're popping over those little fried octopus and
balls,
yes, I'm just like blah 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 blah. It was the best.
Yeah, it's the Chicago of Japan. It's just like hearty food, no pretense, like
a lot of singing.
Yes, a lot of
Apparently, we took a cooking class in Osaka, and we were told by the instructor that all the comedians in Japan come from Osaka. So it really is like Chicago. It's like the beef and comedy city.
That's really interesting. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'd love to hear something from the book.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to read from the beginning of the 2015 chapter. So just to frame it for anyone who hasn't read the book yet, in 2014, that was the year that Joseph and I got engaged. So we got engaged, and then the next thing, the kind of big thing on our list was this huge tour for Welcome to Night Vale, which was we had toured with Night Vale before, but this was our first like really big one, which was about 2 months long, no breaks, straight through the whole U.S. So every place that had a theater in the U.S., we took Night Vale to. And this was my first time as a tour manager. So just that's the setup for this part of the book. Okay. There are several things you should know about driving a 12-foot tall, 23-foot long Sprinter van all day, every day for 2 months. Number 1, it's very big. Number 2, it's sometimes a metaphor for growing up. Number 3, it's sometimes not a metaphor, but a literal 2-ton chunk of metal that is your sole responsibility. Number 4, there is no bathroom in the van, but you can start a rumor mid-tour that there is one. It will lead to much confusion. Number 5, it is almost completely impossible to park anywhere. In the late winter of 2015, with my hard-earned engagement ring on my hand, I set forth to plan the most challenging event of my life. The 2015 Welcome to Night Vale 43-city-long U.S. Spring Tour. After touring with Night Vale in 2014, I realized that I loved touring, that I loved performing my jokes, wearing my costumes, and playing the character Deb, a sentient patch of haze, but that I wasn't being challenged enough, and I wanted to take on more responsibility on the road. I asked to be considered for the tour manager position, and they fucking hired me. I had some expertise. I had been on tour before, and I had stage managed a production in college and 2 very robust children's musical theater shows in high school. But I didn't know shit about shit. And even worse, I didn't know that I didn't know shit about shit, and I needed to learn fast. This was before I knew about many things, like about how the oatmeal at the Hampton Inn breakfast varies in consistency depending on what time in the morning you go to the buffet. Let me break it down for you. 6 a.m., water. 7 a.m., watery mush. 8 a.m., perfect. 9 a.m., glue. 10 a.m., gone. It was before I knew how to do an 11-point turn without screaming in frustration after wheel cut 7. I didn't know that promoters are always trying to lightly steal from artists, and it's the tour manager's job to steal back. I did know that it was my job to get our show to 43 cities and back in a very large vehicle, a vehicle that I was afraid to drive. I also knew it was important in a leadership position, that I show no fear. The van came with a name, Hilda. It also came with a speed governor, so no matter how hard you press the gas pedal, you were not going above 82 miles an hour. Which is a nice safety feature unless, you need to change lanes or pass someone, something you would never need to do on a 15,000-mile road trip. I felt like I was in a bad first draft of the movie Speed. 2 cities into the tour, a roadie for another show dropped a large piece of movable fencing on Hilda. They say, and by they, I mean Sheryl Crow, the first cut is the deepest. From then on, every other scratch became less of an issue. You don't want to be the one to take the first slice out of the cake. So luckily, some roadie in DC got us rolling with ripping up that van. I was averaging a scratch a week. Curbs, gates, walls, cars, poles were all in danger. I hit everything but the lottery in that van. About 2 weeks into tour, I clipped the promoter's car while they were watching us as I was pulling up to the venue. I got out and said nothing. They said nothing, and we went on with our night. I'm always great at first impressions. I'd like to be able to tell you that at this point in the tour, I was finding my footing and enjoying the challenge of being a tour manager, but that is a great untruth. My shitty driving was the least of my problems. It's hard being new at something. It's hard when you are new at something and you feel like you are working without a net. I have trouble letting people help. I would rather push myself to the edge and do all of the work to be the one in charge than share some of the responsibility and risk someone fumbling. It makes me very tired, very frustrated and lonely. I remember standing outside of the Hampton Inn in southern Florida and realizing by the time we got to Portland, Oregon in 3 weeks, that would be the halfway point. I remember screaming at the sky, "How is this not over yet?" I'm not sure if I meant the tour or my life. When we pulled into Los Angeles, my nerves were shot. I hadn't slept more than a few hours a night for a month straight. I was still trying desperately to show no fear, and my hands started to shake uncontrollably. When we got to the hotel in Hollywood, the van did not fit in the parking structure because of course it fucking didn't. I dropped everyone else off at the hotel to rest. Then I drove around Friday afternoon downtown LA traffic for an hour trying to find a lot that would take the beast. I finally found one that said that they could keep Hilda for a few days and we could come and go as needed. I got back to the hotel. I had 10 minutes before I had to drive to Loden. Then I got a phone call from the parking lot. They forgot they had an event that night. I needed to move the van, and I couldn't park there overnight. I cried. Also, it was my birthday. I was 29.
So I'm going to read from 2019. So this is quite a bit after that. This is 2019, yes. This is, in fact, almost the ending of my last essay in the book. So I guess spoilers, but it's just the bit where I try to imagine what's happening next, which is especially interesting because I wrote this in, let's say, December of 2019. So I think I was probably wrong about what was happening next. What happens to us after the end of this book? Predictions of the future are never about the future, but an indirect portrait of the present. How could I, 10 years ago, straight out of college, moving to a city I'd never visited, have predicted much of anything that would happen next? Maybe we have kids, which means we tour less, And when one of us is on tour, there is even more a sense of scattering, that we are stretched out with one part of ourselves at 30,000 feet or watching a cooking show in a Hampton Inn, and the other part of us is at home with the family we love. I think I would be a good dad, maybe not out of a natural inclination toward child rearing, but by the same stubbornness that has aided me in my writing career. There would be work to do, and I would do it. I'm afraid of most other things, but I'm not afraid of hard work. If we have kids, we might lose many of our non-kid having friends, not out of a conscious decision on anyone's part, but just that lives shift, and children aren't fun to be around if they aren't yours, and probably not even then a good chunk of the time. I think through who might stick with us and who might drift off. It feels like a goodbye before anything has happened, but even still I prepare myself for loss. Or maybe we don't have kids. Maybe we can't. We decide to give up somewhere in the arduous, say the word?
Arduous?
Sometimes my mouth can't say words. Years of fertility treatments and adoption screenings. We stay as we are, except no one stays as they are. Our life continues to swerve in unpredictable ways, and we change, both of us individually and the two of us as a couple, every single day, in ways so small and gradual that we don't notice them until we are looking at a photo of us from 2019 and thinking, who were these people and what happened to them? After my father got his heart diagnosis, I remember sitting with him by his piano. I always knew something like this would happen, he told me. My life was so good. It was always so good. I knew eventually the other shoe would drop. Now I know exactly what he meant, because my life has been wonderful. In my early 20s, I met a woman who was the perfect match for me. We've had the easiest relationship it's possible to have, which is to say that it has never been completely easy, but it has never been a struggle. I lucked into the career I always wanted, and we got to live a life that went beyond my wildest dreams of what was possible for me. And now here I am, only 33, with all of that behind me, and anywhere between 60 years and 5 minutes in front of me. Yet I keep waiting for that other shoe, because it will drop. Nothing is easy forever. All stories end, even the good ones. I only hope we get to keep telling this story for a little while longer.
So beautiful, you guys. And I love each of your voices, and they come across so strongly, just like on the written page, and then getting to actually hear you guys speak it. It's like, yeah, those are the voices I was hearing in my head, and they're just the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
True, you guys are so honest and wonderful. And should we see if anyone has any questions for you guys? Open it up.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want? Oh,
Carolyn.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like we do have a few, and just a reminder, everyone in the audience, you're more than welcome to ask a question. Just click the Ask the Question button beneath the screen. So let's start with one from Mike. How does being cooped up together on tour compare with being cooped up together during the pandemic? Is there anything about yourselves or each other you learned in the past year and changed that wasn't already well-mapped territory?
Great question. Thank you. Yeah, being cooped up together on tour is way better because you get to be somewhere else and you get to experience all the wonderful things of the world. I have to say that we do have we were so lucky during this past year because we both could work from home. We could kind of transition the art that we make to being something we can do in the safety of our house, which is really, it's nice and quiet and peaceful. So we could go outside and not have to worry about really seeing any other sort of people. And we have a good relationship. So we got along really well. We like being together. We were very used to it. So it was not like a big change. However, it's definitely better to be out in the world, whether it's cooped up in a tiny van or a bad hotel room or whatever. It's definitely a lot less scary when there's not a pandemic. So.
One interesting thing. We've lived in this house in the Hudson River Valley for 6 years now, but we spent so much of the year on the road that it did feel like I didn't know this area super well, and so having this happen really forced me to get to know this place we lived, especially I really kind of buckled down on like running and biking and finding new routes. And so it's like at this point, I know all of the farm roads around here, like, and exactly how they connect with each other and all of the various houses and rivers. And like, I just really, really, really got to know this place we lived in for more in the last year than in the 5 years before it.
And then, yeah, as far as like some sort of new change for us to be tackling. So we just, decided to try to have a kid this year, which is an interesting choice during a pandemic. But we were very lucky, and I got pregnant, and which was what we wanted. But I became really anxious, and I had not been an anxious person before that. So the big change of becoming a mom and the anxiety of pregnancy, all of those things triggered a lot of anxiety in me. So it was different. I was having a really tough time. And normally Joseph is the one with anxiety, and I'm the one who was like I'm here for you, babe. And the more rock of the person. And I was such a mess. And he seamlessly transitioned into the rock of the person. So
we can't, the thing we've agreed on is we can't both fall apart at the same time.
So I took a turn this time around. I'm much better now. I'm a lot less anxious now. Meditation, guys. It's great.
Well, Meg, I'm sure you're not the only person who has had an increase in anxiety this year. So, alrighty. This one is for Joseph. You've written collaborative books before, you've written solo books, and now one that's a combination of both. How is the writing experience different for each?
In many ways, this sort of felt like a solo book for each of us because, we were writing each of our sides without consulting the other person and so there was nothing in here that's written by both of us. So this felt a bit like writing books on my own, which is a very, it's kind of there's that book by Murakami about the running where he talks about the connection between writing a book and running. And it is very similar of like, it's just such an endurance thing. It's just such a get up every day and do a little bit, and it doesn't seem to do anything. And then eventually that builds into something. It's really kind of lonely and just, it takes so long. It takes a very long time to write a book. Collaboration, I've only ever collaborated in terms of writing together on the same stuff with Jeffrey, and Jeffrey and I have just kind of been writing together since 2010. And so we really have developed a system where it's just, it feels very easy. It definitely feels a little more secure, emotionally, than writing on my own is a lot of just at a certain point, I have to make the decision that it's good enough, which is a very scary decision to make, where, with Jeffrey, there's always the feeling of if I'm not sure a passage is good enough, I'm like, Jeffrey will fix it. There's that kind of fallback of the other person will get an eye on it. And when you write on your own, you don't have that. You just have to be I think it's good enough.
Molly, this one's actually for you. As someone who knows Meg and Joseph well, what was it like to read the first 10 years?
It was awesome. It was totally awesome and a little scary, because when I met them, I was like, all right, these people know what they're doing. I was stalking Joseph on Twitter to become a part of this show. I really wanted to be in the world, and here I am, and it's going to be amazing. And I know there's not anything they don't know, was my assumption going into it, which speaks to my own blind trust in people, which, I'm working on it. It's mostly good, but sometimes it's not the best. So reading the book and reading honest to God, knowing that, oh shit, Megan had the worst day of her life. The night before I met them to go on our first tour, and being taken aback by, oh my gosh, they had their own fears, and they were learning about their own stuff doing this tour. and also how y'all got through it, and how, I mean, y'all didn't let me see it. You know what I mean? Like Cecil might have seen it, Dylan might have seen it, you know, but like, I think a trait of a great leader, and the more I learn about producing, is like, no matter what shit is going on, like your special guest star that's shown up, you know, for their 3 days of filming or whatever, they don't need to know. They don't need to know what's going on. But you only learn that by doing it. And so I loved reading it, and I was shocked that they were such good actors, and they were so good at being leaders.
Very sweet of you, Molly. Well, yeah, and this is my time to compliment you, because I'm going to take it. We learned so much from you. I learned a lot from you, because you came into our show at 21 years old, totally confident in your skills, grabbed the script, super professional, very focused, did not allow any of the pop and dazzle of the tour and all of this, you know, kind of riding around the country like rock stars. That did not faze you at all. You stayed focused, you stayed professional. We still had a ton of fun. Like, that's one of the great things about the guest star that comes in for, you know, you were with us for a week and change. So it's a breath of fresh air. Like, we desperately need that when you're like on a production and you're like kind of like really stymied in the minutia, and then someone new comes in and they're like a breath of fresh air. You're like, yes, let's keep this energy we have going, because they're fresh. But yeah, working with you and always, but also in those early days, I was just so taken by your professionalism and your focus and kindness, and you really showed us a lot of grace in a new situation, which is cool.
Oh, well, thank you, Meg. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so this question kind of dovetails on that. What has been the most interesting reaction to this book from fans, previous readers, or previous listeners?
Well, we gave it to our parents, which was always a little. I mean, I feel like Meg felt a lot more awkward about it than I did, but it is a little awkward to be like, here's everything in the last 10 years. Here you go. Yeah,
just to kind of like, we were visiting with your mom, and we had the advanced copies of both this one and the new one that Joseph wrote, the middle grade Halloween Moon. And we handed them both to your mom, and I really thought, like, knowing your mom, that the Halloween Moon was going to be the first thing that she dug into, and like that was going to be what she ripped through, and then like she would, you know, get to our book, but it wasn't going to be like she would grab the Halloween Moon first. And so we like handed her the books, and I like kind of handed her the first 10 years. And I was like, here's this book. It's very personal. But I guess, you know, I'm pregnant. The jig is up. So I love your son. Here's this book. And then I figured that she would, you know, it would, but like 12 hours later, she texted and being like, I read the whole thing and I loved it. I'm like, okay, great.
My sister also read it, and then she came to me and she was like, Mom tried to talk to me about some of the parts and I had to stop her.
But yeah, I think the handing it over to our family was probably the hardest part. Because I'm always cool with sharing stuff in front of an audience. That's what I do with the Neo-Futurists. It's honest storytelling. I've said lots of things in front of audiences and feel totally fine about it. But like, you know, when your aunts and uncles know about your first date with your someone you're seeing, and you're 22. So, but yeah, you can't not tell that story. You can't not tell those stories because you're nervous about how your family's going to see it. That's not why you write a memoir, is to make yourself look cool. It's to be honest and share your story. So yeah.
And then just the last part of that question, were there any reactions from fans that were surprising or touching or interesting to you guys?
Well, the weird thing about like virtual tours is we haven't like met fans for the most part. Like, it's all very, unless I like comb through social media, which is never a super healthy thing to do. I hope people are like, I don't know, have you seen seen anything?
I think it's been really nice and positive, which I love. People seem to really like the cover, which is cool.
Very cool.
We get a lot of reaction to that, which is nice. You never really know when you put something weird out there in the world whether it's gonna be good, but people seem to like that.
So it'll all come back all at once when we're all in person again.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one more here. Let's see. Joseph, were there any unexpected challenges in nonfiction writing compared to fiction? What about writing for middle grade readers rather than adults?
For nonfiction, it's not something I usually do, mainly because I don't like having to get all the little details right. Every time I write about reality, I get worried that I'm getting some small detail wrong, and I get very in my head about it, which is why I like writing really weird stuff, because it's impossible to get the details wrong. But what I liked about this book is that that was sort of the point. Like, if I got the details wrong, then that's fine, because that was the point of the book. So it felt okay. The actual like storytelling and stuff felt like a pretty similar, I know how to pace a story and how to put together the words for it. It was just, having to like make notes and go back through the facts and try to figure that out was a little different. Writing for middle grade was interesting because I also didn't know that's what I was doing. I thought I was writing a young adult novel because I don't understand how publishers break up these age groups. And so there was definitely stuff. They were like, we think this is a middle grade novel. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, this passage can't be in it because it's a middle grade novel. And I'm like, but I didn't write it as one. You say it's, you're telling me it's a middle grade, and then this passage. So there was a lot of like learning process of what those definitions are and what can go in each one. And I just mainly tried to focus on what I originally came to with that book, which is I just tried to write a book that I would have loved at the age that I was writing for. Like, that's all I was trying to do.
That's so cool. I didn't know you did that. And that's just like, what a dream come true. Like because I was an avid reader as a kid too. And like the idea of being able to write something that you would have liked at that age. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, it comes out in July. We'll get you.
Okay, good. I'm like, how the hell do I not know about this?
I'm pretty sure you're on the list to get one. I'll double check.
Yeah, because like I got mad at them when I saw like advanced readers going out. I'm like, where's my book for the first 10 years? Where is it?
We made you drive out to the desert, and we handed you one.
And it was worth it. And now I got my second one too. So I was on the list. I get very anxious because I'm a fan. I'm a friend, but I'm a fan.
Yeah. Well, we're happy that it arrived safely to you.
Well, speaking of books, we actually have one more question from Allison. In the book, Meg says you both read before bed. What are you two reading right now? And Molly, I'm sure you're welcome to weigh in on what you're reading as well.
I'm currently reading Joanne Beard's Festival Days. I'm a big Joanne Beard fan, and I was very excited when that one came out. So I'm almost done with that one. I kind of ripped through it. I kind of feel like I'm on a clock right now with what I get to read, because when the baby comes, apparently that's like a real time suck. So, so I've been like, every book that I get through before she comes, I'm just like, yes, this could be the last one for a little bit. But yeah, so I'm reading, Joanne Beard's Festival Days, really enjoying it. And I'm also reading, The Nursing Mother's Companion and Birthing from Within, and like all the, I also, if you're looking, I read this one a while ago, but if anyone is interested in memoirs about motherhood and pregnancy, Like a Mother, I really enjoy, which is, I think, Angela Garbus, I think is her last name. And it was a great book. So anyway, that's me.
Similarly, I'm almost done with The Birth Partner, which is all about how to be a partner during labor. I've read a lot of parenting books, although, as we all know, there's no level of preparation for anything that is the same as just doing it. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of like other books, I'm in like a middle of 8 different books right now. I keep like starting and then changing books, but the one I'm almost finished with right now is Blood in the Water, which is about the Attica uprising in the 70s and then the cover up by New York State over the next several decades to try to keep the atrocities that happened when they retook the prison from the prisoners. It's a really, really really super well researched, fascinating read that's also obviously very depressing because it's all about these people rising up because they were in really bad conditions, and then New York State just kind of crushed them.
Yeah, I'm reading a book called The Undying by Anne Boyer, which is her journey through being diagnosed with cancer and having cancer. And it's just so beautifully written. I keep going back and rereading chapters. It's opening my eyes, and I'm absolutely loving it. My fiance's mother is a cancer survivor. So I just kind of wanted to understand some different perspectives on having cancer and what that can do. And it's doing exactly that. It's really opening my eyes to that world. So, yeah.
Well, those all sound like great book recs. We love ending on a book rec question.
And we all like to read.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you guys you in the audience haven't ordered your copy of The First 10 Years yet, please do so. Please support Books and Books. You can do so by clicking the green button below. And that button will also lead you to our shop site where you can buy all of Joseph's books, even the one that comes out this July. You can go ahead and pre-order it, which of course we would really appreciate it. Molly, thank you so much. You were wonderful. And of course, Meg and Joseph, thank you. This was such a great conversation. We were so happy to host you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Molly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye, guys. See you soon.
Bye.